Here we go once again as we bring in another guest here on Kansas Sports Chatter as we welcome in Reed Howard. He's the head coach of the Olathe South football team and getting ready for that fall coming up here in just a few weeks. Hey, Coach, appreciate the time. How's the summer been for you?
Thanks for having me on. It's been great. It's summer's always the time to kind of reset and see what you got. Our guys have been getting after it, since June 1, and it's been really great to see, just the hard work and the progress, and ready to get it going here in a couple weeks.
Congratulations on getting announced as the head coach last winter. For you, like, what was the excitement like just being able to be named the head coach of Olathe South?
It's surreal. I've been a part of this place for a little while. I went to school here, graduated from Olathe South. I've been teaching here for about 13, 14 years, coaching here for about 15 years. And just to get the opportunity to lead this program and just give back to our school, just make it an awesome part of our community has just been something that I've been dreaming about for a long time. And I got to work for some great people where I've learned from, and then just to get to take over and kind of share my vision with our guys and our team, and seeing it come to life has been really, really fun.
All right, so they make the announcement that you're going to be head coach. Like, what was that immediate reaction for you as far as like what you wanted to get started? Like, what was the game plan from day one?
Really just to help our guys understand the proud history that our school's had, especially as it relates to football. We've had some really, really good football teams over the last, couple decades. And I wanted our guys to understand that. I wanted our guys to be proud of, wearing that jersey, wearing the blue and gold, and understanding that there's an entire community of people that have been paying attention to Olathe South football for a really, really long time. And when our football program is winning football games and doing good things in the community, it just helps impact a lot of people in a positive way. So for me, that was my goal, was just to help them understand, as somebody that's been a part of this community for a long time, how much this program means to our school, to our community, to the alumni, to just people that have been paying attention to Olathe sports. So that was really the message early on with our guys, was just to say, hey, you're a part of something bigger than yourself. Understand that, get excited about that, and be excited about writing that next chapter in this school's history.
Do you feel like that's kind of changed over the years? Because I follow a lot of like community colleges, and I always felt like that was hard to, like getting a guy or gal coming into your, the JUCO for 1 or 2 years, like, and they might be somewhere across the country, and then, understanding the tradition. Like from high school perspective, have you seen that change as far as just like guys and gals kind of knowing the tradition of their school?
Yes. It's so much siloed off now, especially like in Olathe where we have 5 high schools. Sometimes the old rivalries, sometimes the old traditions get lost because, our middle school kids, there's not a clean, like you go to this middle school, therefore you go to this high school. So, we have boundaries like anywhere else, but there's some choice as far as which high school you go to. And it's not terribly dissimilar from the landscape that you mentioned of college football, where you can go one place one year and then you can go somewhere the next year. And so for me, that was something that I really wanted to dive back into, is just kind of the establishing the pride of, the kids that are in our attendance area, kind of building a fence around our attendance area, and just making sure that this community is going to be this program is going to be a blessing to this community, and helping those guys understand that these games, especially against these other Olathe schools, really, really matter. We were able to kind of dive back into that a little bit last year in some of our in-city games. And it's just really cool to see kind of those members from the community that text you or that call you after these games, because it does still mean a lot to a lot of people, and trying to bring that back to the forefront for our kids is really important. With all the club sports that we've got going right now, especially in, in other things, football, not so much, but in baseball and basketball and soccer and things like that, all of our kids are way more interconnected across the city than they were when I was growing up. And so, kind of rebuilding some of that healthy rivalry, some of that healthy tradition, some of that healthy kind of just belief that we're the best. In our program, one of the things we say, we break out, we ask them what side's the best side. And everybody says South side. It's just something that we used to do all the time, and it kind of got lost. And so we brought that back just kind of as like a mantra. I'm starting to kind of build back that idea of mantras. Mantras are an easy way to pass down tradition. And so that's one of ours. But
Man, as soon as you said that, I get like glimpses of like Remember the Titans. Like, do you guys have that? Like, South Side, like strong side, weak side thing?
It's similar. Obviously it's a
Okay,
little
all
bit
right.
different, but it's kind of the same thing. It's just simple. Everybody knows it. Everybody's on the same page. We know what it means. It obviously has deeper meaning than just that one word, but to be a part of this program, to be a part of this community, we firmly believe that if we say what side's the best side, there's only one answer.
I like it. And what was South like for you, like growing up there and just attending high school there and then just kind of going through that football program? What was your memory of it?
So I remember how much it meant to the community. So back when I was in high school, we still had the Olathe Daily News. And so that was a daily newspaper that came out that wrote up, not just sports, but everything. But there was a sports section that before I got to high school, I'd always flip to that and see, who the marquee matchups were that week. I remember distinctly whenever two Olathe schools would play, especially when it was like Olathe South, Olathe North back in the day, they would do entire full page write-ups on the starters. They would do, kind of, keys to the game. And it felt like like a D1 level, pro level, type of production.
Yeah.
And so for me, I remember always wanting to be a part of that, always wanting to get, the opportunity to get featured in something like that was cool. And obviously we don't have Olathe Daily News anymore, but that's kind of been replaced by some social media accounts, podcasts, things like this. And so, so trying to help our guys understand that, like, hey, the idea of getting hype on social media, it's not new. It's just used to be a newspaper that everybody read in the city. And it still
Yeah.
means something. Like, people still tune into that stuff. They still watch these types of shows. They still, look at the blog posts, and they want to know what the outlook is for the season. And so for me growing up, it was always fun to, see what it was like to be a part of the Olathe South community compared to the Olathe East or the Olathe, North community. Olathe Northwest opened while I was in high school. And I still remember, like, I still walk the same halls. Like, I still, we still go to a lot of the same places that I was a part of. We'll take our guys to some of the same places on the field where I can remember cool things happening, whether it was, my senior year where we got to, win a sub-state championship and go to the state championship game. Like, I showed them on the field where that happened, where we were playing.
That's
The
awesome.
locker room. I can remember, like, where I was at when these things got celebrated. And so to share those types of memories with our kids and to tell our guys, you're a part of a big story and you get to be the next piece of it, has been something that we consistently bring back to them.
Did you always know that you wanted to get into coaching? Like, when did that hit for you?
Yeah. So when I was in college, I went to Washington University. I was a biology major, and about halfway through, I realized that med school was not going to be what I wanted to do. And so as a biology major, you've got a couple of options, but one of them is to teach. And always been interested in sports. I played baseball at Washburn. Got to work at a sports camp in college. And that was my first kind of foot in the water as far as coaching other kids. When I got done with that, I got to coach a couple different places in kind of like a volunteer role. Got my first job as a coach at Mission Trail Middle School, coaching out there with Adam Olerich, who's the head basketball coach at Olathe North. He was my first head coach that I ever worked for, and just fell in love. And then from that point on, it was just cool opportunities that kept opening up. Helpful to be from Olathe, obviously. Having your name get put on the right people's desks got me going. And then just loving it and working hard and learning and making mistakes and figuring out what works and what doesn't work. Like I said, I worked for some really great guys over the years that have helped me learn a lot about, what it takes to lead a program, and serve. And so just, I would say I've always knew I wanted to coach. And then just over the years, learning like what my style is, what I'm passionate about, why I coach, things like that.
You mentioned like, why that why for you and just being like defensive coordinator last year and serving as an assistant in years past. Like, what did you take from those years of experience and now kind of maybe making that transition to a head coach maybe a little easier?
I think the biggest thing is to trust your assistants. I think as a head coach, the thing that I've had to learn quickly and that I'm obviously still learning is hire great people and trust them to do their job. A lot of our guys that I've been working with here at South are still working with me. And there's some tremendous men, truly amazing men that are great football people. And so, trusting those guys to teach and to motivate and to help our guys get better. I would say that's one of the things that I am still learning, but I would say brought into this job as a head coach, just to say, these guys are good men. And my job is to kind of sit back and communicate and make sure that we're prepared, make sure that they have all the tools they need to be successful. And then, basically just ask them how I can help solve problems. That's been my goal this summer, is to basically just say, hey, what problems do we have? What are we running into? Where do we need help? And then just trying to be a part of that process to just get a little bit better as a coaching staff, and then by extension as a program. I think the other thing too is just understanding the value of that coaching community. One of the things that my wife was really excited about when they hired me was to establish kind of a wives, and I mean, kind of like, the NFL, they have the wives and girlfriends club or whatever. So it's kind of the same thing with us. Like, we've worked really hard to try to get a little bit more of a community with the wives and girlfriends, getting our kids together, trying to make it to where, like, this thing's tough. Like, and we're going to ask a lot of our coaching staff, there's going to be a lot of hours away, and we're going to need the support of our family to be able to get through it, and to be able to still feel that passion, that motivation, because, my wife would tell you that if things are tough at home, it's really hard to get it done on the field and in those meetings. So I would say that's another thing, just bringing the family element into it and understanding that these guys all have families, they all have other people that depend on them, trying to be sensitive to that, but also, let them do their job and let them fly, because, there's some great men working for me right now.
You bring up the time commitment of just a coach, and I think this goes through any sport that you do. But like for you, like, do you ever find it difficult to put it down? Because, like, if you go through a week preparation and you can watch X amount of film and get this amount of preparation and say, okay, I'm ready. But then there's always that, well, I could do a little bit more. I could watch. Have you ever found a hard time just kind of disconnecting from it?
Yeah, there's always that voice in the back of your head that's like, are you doing enough?
Right.
Like, are you working as hard as you could? Is there anything else that you need to do? Always. And I think for me, there's a, my wife is a great kind of check on that, just to make sure that, when I'm home with them as much as possible, I'm present. She's been phenomenal about, understanding if I do need to get away, if I do need to go to a different room, or if I have a crazy idea that I got to write down immediately, which happens a lot. But yeah, just kind of having a stopping point, saying, hey, here's the checklist. Like, I've been having to be much more organized with a checklist of things that we're doing. So as I find something, or something that gets put on my plate, writing it down, putting it on a list, and then when it's time to work, really attack those things. And then try to shut it down once you get to a place where you feel like you can get to. But yeah, no, there's always the, especially with me in year one, there's always the doubt, hey, are we doing too much? Are we not doing enough? We push these guys hard enough, or do we need to push them harder? Do we have, even from like a football side, do we have too much in? Do we need to put more in? There's just always those, where does it stop? And that's a great question, because I think that's something that I'll be figuring out for probably the rest of my career, as far as that goes.
Exciting times. Hey, Coach, appreciate the time. Congrats on the new gig again, and best of luck going forward.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate talking to you guys.
You bet. That's Reed Howard, head coach of the Olathe South football team. We'll have more of the show right after this.